soil mix, we're using 3 different components: 1 part sand, 1 part goat manure, and 1 part topsoil. And then we're going to mix them all to make our soil blend. So in places like here in the Southwest, we have a lot of sandy soil. So we need to enrich the soil in order to give it more of the biodynamics, the biochemicals that we need in order to grow food. Sand is excellent for drainage and volume, and not a whole lot else, because there's not a lot of nutrients in it, because it drains so fast that you have to either constantly water and constantly add nutrients in order to grow food. Now, some things will grow just fine in sand because it does maintain a certain level of moisture. So Bermuda grass and certain weeds, they do just fine. But you see, there's still enough moisture capacity right now for it to hold. So, but it will break down, pretty fast. And so when you add the goat manure, you're adding basically the nutrient component that has the different minerals that you need, and then we'll also as the manure breaks down over time, it continues to change the structure of the sand and continue to attract microbial activity. So it's like a living system that you have in this component that continues to sort of slow release over time as you continue to feed your plants with water and other nutrients. And the last thing that we're going to add is a topsoil, which has has some compost in it, but mostly is for structure. There are a lot of wood chips in it and some broken down organic matter. These kinds of pieces, this carbon and these other organics, actually add to the structural formation of the soil, so it does have more of that capacity to retain moisture and nutrients. And so when you blend them all together, you have a balance of drainage, moisture retention, and also a high nutrient component. And all of that can continue to interact and transform and regenerate this into a living soil environment. So we're just gonna take all of that 3 parts mix, pour it into this tub, and you see that pure sand is where we start off. And then I just mix it with my hands. You can mix it with a shovel or a spade or a hoe or something like that. But this is how I mix it. And the good thing about goat manure, well, the good thing for me is I have 7 goats, so I have plenty of access to this manure, which is why I'm using it. And I would imagine you can use other types of manure as well. If you use chicken or cow manure, you want to really make sure that it's fully composted, so that through the thermophilic process, the pathogens are cooked out. Goat manure also has to go through some of that, and fortunately, when I harvest goat manure, it's from an area that's been exposed for months and months under sun, so I'm not as worried about the pathogens in it. But also, even within this process, the heat that begins to generate when we combine it all and put it into these contained areas will continue to break down those pathogens. and also the microbial activity that happens in the soil contributes to the heat that's going to be generated in these contained bags. And so all we're using is cardboard that I rescued from, recycling bins at the local grocery store or discount store, and burlap bags that we were able to get from local coffee shops. So shout out to the local coffee shops here, Milagro and Cacho Coffee Roasters. They have these bags and they offer them free to the public. And so all these materials are easily accessible, and it's a good way to create the environment that you need to grow food. If you don't have access to a lot of healthy soil in your space, this is how you can make some healthy soil. And in the end, because over time, this is all biodegradable material, so it will break down as you continue to grow and add water. But what you have is contained like very highly bioactive soil that you can reintroduce, to your living space, or use to grow plants and things like that. Now you will need to continue to add nutrients to it over time as the plants that you grow in them begin to deplete the nutrients. But you're really going to have a lot of mycorrhizae because of the manure. It actually attracts the bacteria, and we're going to introduce some as well. But you really want that mycorrhizae growth happening in these bags as well, because they help to access the nutrients to provide to the plants. So that is this stage of this build, and then I'm just gonna fill one of these bags with some of this soil mix. Just a little bit at a time, and we just sort of let the bags fill and form naturally after we line them with cardboard. And the reason that we use cardboard is to help reduce the evaporative rate so it doesn't dry out so fast. But over time, as you continue to water and take care of your plants, you don't want to overwater. You just want to water enough to keep it moist. As you do that, that moisture is retained, and that soil begins to decompose and start to be able to actually hold more moisture within itself. And these bags are, this mix that I use, it's about 20 gallons in total. And what it does is it provides a very deep, rich environment for root systems to grow. So instead of growing out and searching for food, they'll grow deep vertically, and because of that, you can put a lot more seed in these environments than you would if you were laying them in a row. So we can do a pretty intense planning of what we're going to put in here. I think we're going to try some tomatoes, and we're going to try some greens, and maybe we'll actually start off with some lettuce mix and some radishes just to get the soil active. So this is a vertical setup. So I'm looking at, in each of these bags, you have a at least like a 1 foot by 2 foot growing area. So at least two cubic feet of growing space you have in each one of these bags. Probably more than that, honestly, because some of them are taller, maybe even 18 inches deep and about 2 feet in width, so it's varying, and we'll see how the different sizes perform. But this is what my mix looks like. And this is what see how you can form that now that you have that mass in there. Get it nice formed, and then you fill it up. And when we decide to plant, either transplant or direct seed, we're going to add a little more compost to the top and some topsoil, some potting soil, just so that the seeds or the plants can have their immediate nutrients that they need to get going. Before you plant, what you should do is take a little bit of water add a little water to the mix. Not a whole lot. You don't need a whole lot. Just enough to kind of cover the top. And just let it soak in. And this begins to form the structure of the soil. Because it has that sand, you see how fast that water drains. It doesn't take long at all. And then after a while, you end up with a little bit more moisture in the soil. And that's a totally different component than we had with just sand. You want it to hold like that. That's moisture retention. It's also a very loose soil, so you get to have a lot of root penetration. And there you have it. The Project 2025 initiative. Grow your own. And this is a vertical system, which allows a lot more usage of this space. So we're only coming out about 4 feet from the outside of this structure, which we built using PVC and some fencing, a little bit of shade cloth. And the idea is we're shading because we know it's going to get hot here soon, and certain plants, especially tomatoes, they actually need a little bit of shade. In most places they need full sun, but here the sun is so intense that they need a little bit of shade, and so we have just enough shade to protect them from being burned, but not so much shade that they don't fruit, because if you put too much shade over tomatoes, they'll grow a lot of leaves, but they won't give you a lot of fruit. So you want to have that balance of protection, but also allowing the right amount of sunlight in. So that's it. Part 2. Stay tuned.